Hi, it's Ash from Revolution Me, and this video is about fasting, specifically water fasting, and whether we need to fast in order to achieve emotional release and emotional cleansing. So this video has been inspired by Fully Raw Christina's recent water fast, and I think she fasted for just over a week. And she's been vlogging about it, and I've been following her journey because I find it really interesting. I've never fasted more than a day or two myself, and it's always been inadvertently, like if I'm coming down with something and I lose my appetite and I end up just sleeping all day and not actually eating anything. So I've been following her journey with a lot of interest, and it sounds like her fast was for emotional and spiritual reasons rather than health reasons per se. And I get the impression that she has gotten a lot out of the fast, and she's reporting more energy and she feels really good. And I think she's inspiring a lot of people. One of the things that I find particularly interesting is when she talks about emotional release. And I get the impression from her videos that there was some things that she went through, some challenges, and they were associated with a lot of emotions which she didn't fully deal with at the time. And so she's gone on this fast in order to be able to go back and release those emotions, which is a wonderful thing to do because stored emotions can wreak havoc on our body, and chronic stress has been documented to have lots of long-term effects on everything from our immunity to our longevity. One of the things that became really apparent to me as I've been watching her vlogs is that I think some people might watch her videos and start thinking that, gee, I've got some trauma that I need to release. I've got some emotions that I need to release. Maybe I should do a fast. And that's actually why I'm doing this video. So this is not to hate on Christina. This is actually, I have no comment to make about her water fast. I mean, she's done it responsibly. She knows what she's doing. She's been a raw vegan for a really long time. So this is not a comment on whether or not she should have fasted. What I'm addressing is whether we need to water fast in order to achieve emotional release and for emotional cleansing. Christina put a lot of disclaimers in her video that water fasting is not for everyone, which is fair enough, because I think that if you're I think she mentioned that you should water fast under supervision. You should go to like a fasting center or a fasting retreat, and you should have a really good support system. And she also said that young people shouldn't fast. And I would take it even further, and I would say that if you've got a history of calorie restriction or eating disorders, then maybe fasting is not for you. And obviously, if you're pregnant or you're breastfeeding, then I'm guessing that fasting, water fasting anyway, is probably not a good idea. So what happens if you find yourself wanting to achieve emotional release, but you don't want to water fast, or you can't water fast, or you don't have access to a fasting center, or you don't have the resources to go and do a supervised fast? Or maybe you just live a kind of lifestyle, like you have young kids to look after and you need to be active all day, and during fasting you're supposed to be achieving complete rest. So what happens if you're unable to fast and you want to have that emotional release? So the first thing I want to say is that really strong, unpleasant emotions are associated with a stress response. So worry, anxiety, sadness, fear, and even anger can be associated with an adrenaline rush, what we call the fight or flight response. So this is a cascade of hormones, and one thing about these hormones is that they will linger in the body unless we literally burn them off. So you might notice that when people get very angry, they tend to pace around. Or if people are really stressed, then they might fidget, or they might get jittery, or they might bite their fingernails, or do some other kind of movement. And this is the body's way of releasing the stress hormones, because if we don't release the stress hormones, then they stay in the body and they can cause havoc. So there's many ways to burn off stress hormones, and any kind of physical activity will do the job. And so whether that's putting on some music and dancing, or going for a walk, or going for a run, or taking an aerobics class, or going swimming, you know, whatever your preference is. One thing that can be really helpful actually is writing, and I'm going to explain why that is in a moment. When we write, when we hand write, it actually uses a lot of muscles and it activates a lot of our brain. Handwriting is more effortful compared to typing on a computer. So handwriting can actually be a really good way of releasing emotions. And the great thing about writing is that it allows us to put our thoughts onto paper. Because when we have thoughts and they're staying in our head, they take up a lot of space in our brain. Our brain can only process so much information at one time. So if we're using a part of our concentration or a part of our energy focusing on something that's happened in the past, or ruminating about something that's gone wrong in the past or mistakes that we've made, then it actually means that there's less of our focus available to concentrate on the things that are really important, the things that really matter. So when we write, it's like a huge brain dump onto paper, and it frees up our brain's processing space. This is called working memory. It frees up our brain's processing space to then be able to focus on what's important. So our brain's memory storage capacity is infinite, but the amount that we can process at any one time is not. It's quite limited. So one of the reasons to process emotions and deal with emotions is because they're taking up less space in our working memory. Another benefit to writing is that it gives us total freedom of expression. So we can write down like our deepest, darkest thoughts, and we can put them on paper. A lot of people find that talking to someone's really useful, like talking to a friend or a loved one, or talking to a counselor or a psychologist. And while this can be useful, I think that sometimes we don't feel free to fully express everything that's going on in our head. And that can be for various reasons. But when we put it on paper, the paper's not going to judge us. The paper's not going to think that we're bad or that we're wrong or that we've done something wrong. Writing it down actually gives us full freedom of emotional expression, and that's why writing can be so beneficial. So writing gives us an outlet, a physical outlet. It allows us to do a huge brain dump onto paper, and it's a place of complete non-judgment, and we can literally write down anything and no one has to know. And then what we do with that writing is totally up to us. Some people find it quite cathartic to tear it up or to burn it, safely, of course, and that can be another way of releasing emotions. So what does this look like in the real world? If you want to release emotions and you don't want to water fast, what I recommend is sitting yourself down for, say, 20 or 30 minutes in a quiet space with some blank sheets of paper and a pen. That's it. That's all you need. And just writing down anything that happens to go through your mind at that time. The reason you need to do this for about 20 minutes at least, maybe and preferably even 30 minutes, the reason that you want to do this is because for the first few minutes there's going to be just a lot of day-to-day sort of junk that will come out onto the paper. So it might be something like, I got to go get coconut milk. I wonder if coconut milk is on sale. Which shop should I go to get the coconut milk? And oh, there's this recipe I've been meaning to try. Like literally that's what your writing might look like. It might start off just with meaningless stuff. Once all of that is out on the paper, that's when the deep stuff comes out. And it might take a few minutes. So that's why I always recommend you sit down for at least 20, preferably 30 minutes or longer, and just sit and just write. Get out all of those angry thoughts, the guilty thoughts, the upsets, the hurts, the frustrations, the stresses and the worries, everything you can think of. And don't just do it once. Dedicate yourself to doing it as many times as you need to, maybe every day for a week. And that's like your emotional cleanse. Every day for a week, you just sit down and you just write. And whatever comes out, it's there on paper and you deal with whatever it is that comes up. There's a really interesting book called The Artist's Way, which you might have come across. And in this book, the author talks about doing exactly this process. And she goes into a lot more of the benefits of doing it. So it's called The Artist's Way. Feel free to check that out. So I'm going to wrap up this video here. Thank you so much for watching. I trust you found this useful. If you want to do an emotional cleanse, I really suggest you take on this strategy of writing. It's hugely beneficial for the reasons that I've outlined in this video, and it is possible to achieve emotional cleansing and emotional release, and you don't necessarily have to water fast. So try it out. Let me know how you go. Please feel free to leave a comment below this video. Thank you so much for watching.